Welcome everyone to the Got Manga Viz Summer Reading Book Club. I'm Showen Bradley, and I'll be your guide through today's discussion so that you can start thinking in depth about manga and be ready to discuss the official reading guides with your friends, created by Pop Culture Classroom. This week's title is Komi Can't Communicate. Komi Can't Communicate is written and illustrated by Tomohito Oda. This is the story of two high school students, Shoko Komi and Hitohito Tadano. The titular character Komi is viewed as the class princess, but she has a secret. Her social anxiety causes her to be almost completely mute. Fellow classmate Tadano becomes her unlikely new friend and makes it his mission to help Komi make 100 new friends. Komi Can't Communicate is a heartwarming and hilarious tale of social anxiety, the power of friendship, and the differences between reality and perception. The official Reading Club guide has a variety of discussion ideas and activities that will help to get you engaged with the amazing story of Komi Can't Communicate. Today we will chat through some of these topics so that you can be ready to have a great discussion with your fellow Viz Summer Reading Book Club friends. Okay, so now this is a friendly reminder that we are full on entering the spoiler zone. You have been warned. So let's get talking about Komi Can't Communicate. This manga is a sweet and funny coming-of-age tale that will make you laugh at the silly antics of the characters, but also cry a bit for how relatable their troubles are to our own experiences. And if you're anything like me, it will also make you cringe at just how awkward our own youth was. So let's take a look at some of the themes that make this slice of life story stand out. Communication. It's the title of the manga, so you know it's important. Komi, through the grip of her anxiety, just can't communicate with her peers. This has led to a lot of misunderstandings for all of those around her. The theme of communication in this story shows the differences between complete miscommunication, a lack of communication, and very direct communication. Komi represents what happens when there's zero communication or miscommunication. Because of her silence, she's misinterpreted at every turn. Her classmates, and even her teachers, think her quiet demeanor is because she's refined and elegant and doesn't need to speak, and they idolize her because of it, when in reality she's very lonely and wants to talk to all of them, she just can't do it. Komi also has this really intense way of staring that scares off people like her fellow classmates, or in one case, a bully. On the other end of the spectrum is Osana, whose communication style is very overt and very direct, maybe a little too harsh. Osana is able to be friends with everyone in school and often brags about this fact. However, when dealing with Komi, it's clear that their way of dealing with her is borderline bullying because of how direct Osana is with her. One example of this is when Osana demands that Komi go down to the cafe and get her a custom coffee order, even though it's clear that Komi is not ready for the situation yet. There's also the instance when Osana forces Komi to come play games with a bunch of people she's not friends with yet, and Komi's not really ready for it, and I think Osana's heart is in the right place, but again, Osana's version of communication is super direct. Come here right now, do this thing right now, and I know it's gonna help you, but it's a little overt. And then there's Tadano, who falls somewhere in the middle of these two. His communication style is stumbling, yet effective because he pushes to make himself understood. Once he realizes Komi has a communication problem, he asks her directly about it, and although there's some miscommunication to get there, eventually the scene ends with them having this really great conversation on the chalkboard, just writing out their feelings to each other instead of talking. So where do you think you fall on this scale of communication? Are you more of a Komi, a Tadano, or an Osana? Another major theme of this manga is anxiety and perception. If we all didn't feel a little bit of anxiety from time to time, we simply wouldn't be human, now would we? And it is our own individual perception that can cast every situation in a different kind of light from what other people see. And it depends wholly on our own experiences, our personalities, our hopes, and our fears. Many characters in Komi Can't Communicate share a deep anxiety and fear of what others think about them, and also have warped perceptions, resulting in the miscommunications that run rampant through the story. It can be hilarious and, well, maybe a little painfully relatable. It's normal to experience fear when learning the ins and outs of how to act around other people, and it's even harder when it's your first time coming out of your shell, like these adolescent teenagers. However, what Komi shows is a little more than just normal apprehension. What she has is a communication disorder that stems from anxiety that prevents her from having a normal social life. But in the story, we see that how even someone with extreme fears can slowly learn how to communicate with others, even if it's not in a conventional way. You get a real feeling for Komi's fears when she begins to talk to Tadano by writing all of her anxieties on the blackboard. She writes, "I get so nervous when I'm in front of people and my face tenses up because I get so scared." And she also writes, "Do people hate me? Well, of course they do. How can they like someone they can't speak with?" You can see in these statements that what she perceives of others' thoughts about her are very different from the truth. She's so worried about what other people think of her that she can't bring herself to talk to them, which brings on more miscommunications, and so it's sort of like a vicious cycle happening over and over again. However, Tadano is able to help her break this cycle with his kindness and his patience, and a plan to help her make 100 new friends. Which brings us to our next theme, friendship! Overcoming anxieties and problems is so much easier with a good friend. This manga shows a group of teenagers who all have their own insecurities and problems, but they're able to overcome them slowly through the bonds they have with their friends. Friendship means accepting the flaws in your friends and helping them through them and making them stronger. Another friend they add to the group towards the end of Volume 1 is Agari, who gets nervous when people look at her and has a very low self-esteem. However, after being approached by Komi, Agari is able to face her fears and get a little better at public speaking and also to join their friend group. So yes, this manga shows a lot of courage and determination in these characters. Doing anything for the first time can be really scary, and that can be made even more daunting when you see others around you doing it so easily. But Komi and her friends find courage in their friendships to help them learn determination so they can keep pushing on to overcome their fears and to also strive to not be misunderstood. Coming of age is an overarching theme in the story, which of course it is because the story is about a bunch of awkward, adorable teens. First of all, it is completely normal to flub in social situations while you're growing up. And listen, even as an adult too, okay? No one emerges straight into this world as a baby with perfect social skills. We learn how to act around others with practice and by looking to our peers for acceptance and guidance. Our behaviors are shaped not only by our personalities, but by those around us. If seeing some of these scenes made you wince with secondhand embarrassment, congratulations! You were once a teen or are now a teen. We can all relate. Remember your first phone call? It was maybe a zillion years ago, but in the scene where Komi talks with Tadano on the phone for the first time and she's kicking in excitement, it gave me happy and embarrassed butterflies in my stomach, kind of like in the first time I used the phone too. Komi Can't Communicate shows us that even the most awkward of us can still make friends and overcome our fears with the help of our friends. It also gives us bittersweet nostalgia about our own coming of age in a sweet and hilarious way, while giving us hope that we can change ourselves if we put the work in. The title of this manga may be Komi Can't Communicate, but it sure does teach us how we can learn to. So which character did you relate to the most? Was it Komi, Tadano, Osana, maybe Agari or someone else? Let us know why in the comments below. For even more great discussion ideas and activities about this manga, you can check out the official Komi Can't Communicate Reading Club guide in the link in the description below. And don't forget to share it with your friends so that you can create your very own manga book club this summer. Also below you can find a link to our last episode about My Hero Academia. And you can read even more Komi Can't Communicate via digital download or purchase the physical copy at viz.com. Thank you for joining us for the second session of the Got Manga Viz Summer Reading Book Club. I have been your study buddy, Michelle Wynn Bradley, and until next time, keep on reading. Komi can't communicate.